Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Georgia and I'm a knit and crochet designer, and today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful beachy knit dress. It's gorgeous and it's the easiest thing you'll ever make, and I know I say it in every video, but this is like, if you are really a beginner knitter, you can do this, and if you're an experienced knitter and you just fancy like an easy project, you can do this as well. All you need to know is how to cast on, how to do a knit stitch, and how to bind off. That is it. And then the straps are crocheted, but if you can't crochet, then you can knit the straps instead if you want. Like, it's up to you. While we're here, don't forget to like the video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to my channel for more tutorials. I've got so much coming your way, but without any more babbling, let's get crafting. Okay guys, so there are 4 sizes. I'm going to leave the sizes on the screen now. There's small, medium, large and extra large, and they aim to have like around 20 inches of positive ease, but you know, it doesn't matter too much. Just go with what you think, and I am going for the small. I'm making this for my mum, and she is a very petite woman. So actually I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. So what you're going to need is some 9mm knitting needles, and I've got them on a 40cm wire. It seems like a small wire, but honestly I just did it on a bigger wire and it was way too long, so I'm doing the shortest wire that I have. If you have if you don't have a wire this short though, you can do it with a longer one. You just have to like keep pulling the wire through. But yeah, this is just going to make it easier. Then you're also going to need a 6mm crochet hook, and this is for the straps. If you can't crochet, don't panic. You can make the straps with your knitting needles as well. You'll probably need, I would say, around a 4mm knitting needles. If you're going to knit the straps, you can do I-cord, you can go back and forth, whatever, but I'm going to do crochet because I'm fast at crochet and it looks really cool. Then you're also going to need a pair of scissors. Potentially you're going to need a measuring tape, and also a yarn needle as always to weave in the ends. So with the sizing as well, you don't need to worry about the length, because we're going to do the length as we go. So we only need to worry about the width and like the circumference of the dress, and then you can knit the dress as long or as short as you want, and you can try it on as you go. Getting ahead of myself again, this is the yarn that I'm using. It's a DK weight yarn, and I've got about 700 meters, but I'll leave on the screen now how much I used for the size small, and you can use that as sort of like a guide as to how much yarn you may need. Starting with a slip knot, and we're going to cast on our stitches. So for size small, you want to cast on 117. For size medium, cast on 127. For size large, cast on 139, and for extra large, cast on 151. And once you've done that, come back here and I'll show you the next step. Also, I do just want to say, because we're using a big size needle but quite a thin yarn, it might feel a bit weird to begin with, but you will get used to it. Okay, so I did my cast on stitches, and now what I'm doing is I'm actually just knitting the first row as normal, so I haven't joined in the round just yet. Okay, so now I've done row 1, I'm going to join it in the round. So when you join in the round, you just got to make sure that none of your stitches are twisted. So I'm just going to work around and make sure that all the stitches are not twisted and facing the same way. Okay, so I'm pretty sure I have no twists in there. And all I'm going to do is just knit into the next stitch. So I'm just going to knit as normal in there. and then we're now joined, and I'm just going to continue knitting, and I'll show you what it looks like in a sec. So as you can see, there is a little bit of a gap here, but what I will do, and I know this isn't like the normal way you're supposed to do it, but this is how I do it. So this tail here, if you leave it here, and then when it gets to the end, like when you want to fasten off your work and finish or do all the finishing touches, you can just use this to like just secure this so that it's tighter together, and it will be completely fine. You can also add a stitch marker to signify the beginning of each row, but honestly I'm not going to bother doing that because one, I can use the tail to signify where the beginning of my row is, and also we're not going to be doing specific rows, we're just going to keep knitting and knitting and knitting until we get to the length that we desire, so don't need to really worry about it too much. So because we're working in the round, all you have to do is knit stitch every single row, and that gives you stockinette, so you don't have to do any purl stitches when you're working in the round. So we're just going to knit every single stitch, and you're literally just going to keep doing this until you get the length of the dress that you want. Mine that I've made before was around 20 to 25 inches, can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but what you can do when you've got, you know, a good amount of length in your dress, you can hold up your work, you can even like step into it, so you know you can get a really good vision of what it's going to look like, and you literally just hold it up like to your armpits / to the top of your breasts, and then let the work just hang down, and that is the length of your dress. And then if you're happy with it, you can go on to the next step, or if you want to add more length, then you can just keep going. So it's really open to interpretation, but obviously I'm gonna just crack on with this now, keep knitting and knitting and knitting, knit stitch every row, and then I'll show you what I mean and what comes next if you're not 100% sure. But just keep knitting until you have, you know, a good amount of length. And also another thing is, if it seems absolutely huge, like if it seems way too wide, don't worry, because it's supposed to be like that. So just trust me with this one, especially if you know your gauge is correct, then you'll be completely fine. Just trust the process, go with it, and it will all make sense when we get to the end. So enjoy your meditative knitting, and I'll see you once I've got a good amount of length on my dress. Okay guys, so here is my work, and sorry I'm going to be getting in the frame, but it's measuring about 24 inches give or take. I'm happy with that. So yeah, it does drape down quite low, so even if it looks a bit too short, you can see like in the photos on the thumbnail, and I'll leave some on the screen now, like it does dip down quite a lot. So yeah, 24 inches, and this is for my mum, she's about 5'5". So now all I'm going to do is literally bind off. Sorry for the weird angle, but it is actually so hard to get comfy whilst you're filming, so ignore my foot there. But all that's left to do now is to bind off. Now you can see that I'm about here in the round, and where's my tail? My tail is there, so I'll just zoom you out so you can see. So I'm about here and my tail is there, so I'm roughly, you know, on the same sort of area, but it doesn't have to be exact, it just has to be rough. So I'm going to bind off quite tightly just to keep everything as neat as possible. So I'm going to knit 2, bind off, and then just pull it nice and tight on the next one. So just making sure that when you see here I'm pulling tight before I do the next one, just because that'll make sure that all the bind off stitches are uniform. But yeah, we're just going to do this all the way around. So keep on binding off, and when you've got all the way around, I will show you how to do the straps. Okay, so I've bound off all my stitches. I'm just gonna cut the yarn and just fasten that into place so it doesn't go anywhere. And now, this is my bind off edge. To be honest, it could be better. Some of them are like, some of the loops look a bit weird, like you see that one. But then if you just like pull the stitches down, it kind of like sorts itself out. Don't be alarmed if it looks humongous, okay? Because it's supposed to be wide. Now what we're going to do is lay your dress out flat. So this is my bind off edge. And what I'm going to do is grab my tape measure and just measure from one side to the other how wide mine is. Now mine's measuring 21 inches wide. What I'm going to do, that's perfect. I'm going to divide that number into 3, which is 7. But obviously just do it roughly. So then at 7 inches, I'm going to place a stitch marker there. And I'm going to go through both sides. So I'm going through the front and the back. And then at 14 inches, I'm going to also place a stitch marker there. But obviously if yours is wider or less wide, just divide it into 3 equal parts as best as you can. And that is where your straps are going to go. So the next part is where my crochet hook comes in. If you don't know how to crochet, you can get some 4mm needles. You can use one strand of your yarn, and you can either do it in 2 ways. You can do I-cord if you know how to do that, or you can do, like, you can cast on 2 stitches, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, and like, so it's basically like a really short row that you just go back and forth and you end up making a strap. But yeah, I'm going to get my crochet hook. So just to make this as quick as possible as well, I've got 2 strands of yarn, and I'm going to use my 6mm crochet hook. The idea is that you want a strap that's about 60 inches because they're gonna be adjustable, so you need them to be long enough so that you can adjust them, if that makes sense. So I'm going to make my chain, and I'll tell you how many I chain once I've done it, but I'm just gonna go with the flow, measure it as I go, and then I will count how many it is so that the next strap can just be the exact same amount of chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Here you can see it's like a little plait. Mine's measuring just over 60 inches. So I'm going to cut the yarn. Okay, so I just cut the yarn and pull that tight. I honestly think when I did this before, I just did another knot and then tightened it and then left these little strings hanging, because I just thought they looked kind of cute with the whole like beach vibe. So I'll pull that tight, and then I'm just going to leave those there. But you can obviously cut them, weave the ends in, or whatever you want to do. And then on the other side, I'm just going to do another little knot there, just so it definitely won't come undone. So that's one strap. I'm going to make another one in the exact same way. Okay guys, so I've done 2 of my straps. I've just zoomed you in a bit so you can see what I'm doing. So go back to your stitch marker, and all you're going to do, so where I bound off, that is going to be the back of the dress. So I'm just going to turn it around. So here's the front of the dress, and I got my 2 stitch markers here. So all I'm going to do is just take one of my straps, and I'm going to place the strap through one of the holes that's just underneath the stitch marker. So any of the holes where it's like big enough to fit through. So I'm probably going to go into this one here. So I'm just going to insert the strap through. So now it's gone through. And then straight through the other side. So you see I've still got the stitch marker in the other side. And I'm going to go probably in there. So I'm just going to put it, so it's gone from front to front to back, or like from the outside to the inside, and that's going to go from the inside to the outside, if that makes sense. So it goes all the way through, and then you can just tie the two ends of the straps together. So I'll just do them in a bow for now. And then once you try it on the dress, you can obviously like adjust it. But then what happens is, if I take, I'm going to have to zoom you out so you can see properly. But if you take the stitch marker away, and then what you have is this double strap. So that's the back of the dress and that's the front of the dress. And the bow you can have at the back, you can have it at the front, you can have it sitting at the top of your shoulder, and then you can adjust this so the tighter you do the bow, like the bigger the bow, the shorter the straps, and you know, the longer the straps, the lower down the dress will sit on your body. So you can have a play around with it. But that's one strap done, so I'm going to do the same now on the other side. So this is the front of the dress. I've got my stitch marker there, so I need to get my other strap, and I'm just going to place it through one row underneath the bind off row from the outside to the inside, and then on the back from the inside to the outside. And if you're not happy with the placement of your straps as well, then you know, you can always take them out and try different placement and just see what works for you. Now I'm just going to tie them in a quick bow and then take the stitch marker away, and you will see we have another double strap. So I am going to weave in my ends and then I'm going to try it on. Also guys, I'm just weaving in the ends, and this is where I bound off, where I kind of started binding off, and you can see it's kind of like a bit uneven there. If you want to use your tail that you have, that I'm just weaving in, to kind of like fasten up that gap, then like obviously feel free to go ahead. But I just like the way it's like kind of open, and when it sits on your back it actually looks really cute. But I just thought I'd mention that. Ta-da! This is the first time I'm trying on the dress, and you might be able to tell that my straps here are a bit longer. I did end up adjusting them and bringing the dress up slightly. But yeah, this is the finished dress. And here we have the finished product. It does look a little bit like uneven, but the more you wear it, the more it will drop out. But also I kind of just held it and like shook it to just try and even out all the stitches, or you can stretch it a little bit just to like make them all even. But yeah, I'm so happy with the way it turned out. I hope you are too. Don't forget to like the video if you did enjoy it. Give me a thumbs up. That's the same thing as liking the video. Subscribe if you feel like it, and look out for more tutorials from me. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Make sure you tag me in your dresses because I would love to see them. But have a great day. Thanks for watching.